What's going on, everyone? My name is Donovan, and today I want to share with you my final review of the Garmin Fenix 6. This is a watch I've been using for about 2 months now, and today I'm ready to go ahead and share with you my final thoughts after using this watch for a significant period of time. Now, before I get into that, let me just give a quick shout out to our sponsor for this video, the folks over at playbetter.com. Right now, you can get some last-minute gift ideas for 10% off on their website, playbetter.com, where you can get fitness, golf, cycling, and other outdoor equipment. Also, right now, if you check out their Amazon site, they do have a bunch of great gift packages you can get for watches like the Garmin Fenix 6 and other great outdoor equipment. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first off, it's important to note that the Garmin Fenix 6 is not a cheap watch. It ranges anywhere from $600 for the Fenix 6S without music and maps, all the way up to $1,150 for the 6X in Solar Edition. So it is a rather pricey watch without a doubt, but that's because Garmin literally has thrown every possible feature that they have in any of their watches into the Fenix 6 line. So that being said, the watch that you see here, I have the Fenix 6 in Sapphire Edition, as you can see right down here. This one comes in at $800, and it's definitely pricey, and that's because they literally throw in the kitchen sink with this watch. And that being said, let me just mention that over the 2 months, I've been primarily using this watch as a runner. So I am strictly a runner. I'm not a cyclist. I'm not a swimmer, although I do swim occasionally and I do cycle occasionally. I'm pretty much mostly just a runner. So in the time that I've been able to use this watch, that's pretty much my perspective. Oh, so now that we've talked about the price of the Garmin Fenix 6, let's go ahead and talk about the build quality. And that's definitely one area where I think Garmin watches really shine. And the build quality is definitely no slouch here. So one beautiful thing about this watch is that it is very rugged without being too heavy. And that's probably the thing I appreciate most about this watch. The Fenix 5 Pro, or sorry, Fenix 5 Plus that I had definitely felt a little bit on the heavy end. And there's no question for me that the Fenix 6X, which I did also review, is a little bit too big and too heavy for me. So this one comes in kind of at a sweet spot for me personally. It comes in at 82 grams. The display size is 1.3 inches, and the case size is 46 millimeter, which is actually a little bit smaller than the Fenix 5 Plus, which was 47 millimeters. So it's really only 1 millimeter difference. That's not noticeable, but the weight difference is a little bit noticeable between those two watches. So I do want to go ahead and show it next to a few other smartwatches just so you can get kind of an idea of the size. So this is the TicWatch Pro LTE version, and you can see it's just a little bit bigger than that, but obviously this one has a lot more rugged design here. So this is stainless steel just like this one, but this one obviously is a little bit more rugged. We have here the Apple Watch Series 5, 44 millimeter. You can see screen-wise it's about the same size, but then obviously this one is significantly bigger in terms of size. And then here it is next to the Samsung Galaxy Watch Active 2. Now, if I actually had the Samsung Galaxy Watch, they are a lot more similar in size, but the Active 2 is designed to be kind of small and sleek, and obviously a lot smaller than the Fenix 6. So the Fenix 6, like I mentioned, is a very rugged watch, but it just has a nice feel to it. I've never felt like this one was over bulky, and you can see in terms of the sensors, there's obviously all the same sensors you'd come to expect on a Fenix 6, and we have our 5-button configuration here, our heart rate sensor. Then, of course, this is actually 10 atmospheres water resistance, so that's quite a bit. That's basically double what you get on most smartwatches. Most smartwatches come in at 5 atmospheres water resistance. This, of course, is 10 atmospheres water resistance, which means you can go up to 100 meters in depth. This one also has 810 military grade testing, or 810G military grade testing, and then you can get it in sapphire. You can also get it in titanium. The version I have here is a stainless steel version because this is the Sapphire Pro edition. But it is, again, like I said, available in titanium, and then also with sapphire glass like I have here. So it's going to be scratch resistant, so very, very scratch resistant, and then also really even harder and lighter if you get the titanium edition. But of course, those are going to cost you a little bit more to get. All right, so if I'm being nitpicky about the build quality, one area that I think that Garmin could improve when it comes to build is with the design of their buttons. So again, like I mentioned, there's a 5-button configuration, just like every other Garmin watch that is not touchscreen. And one area that I think that could improve that is by reducing it by basically being like Coros watches. So if you're familiar with the Coros Verdicts, they basically have a middle button here in the middle that has a crown that you turn. That crown is basically a replacement for this up and down button that you have here with Garmin. So this is up, this is down, and that's the way you're going to navigate through the menus and things like that on the Garmin watches, whereas with the Coros, you just turn it, and then if you hit the button, that's the select button, and they have their light up here and then back button down here. So this is the back and lap button here on the Garmin. This one is our select button, so instead of having a select button on the Coros, they basically just have a push on that crown button as well. Like I mentioned here, this is down and up. This one also takes us into our menus, so this is our settings, so we can go in there, and then if we go up here, this is our backlight, so it's going to turn the backlight on and off, and then if I hold it down, it's going to take us into our quick settings here. So that is just a quick rundown of how the button configuration works here. But like I said, I think it works better on Coros watches where they have that crown. And that's one thing I would like to see Garmin test out in some future watches for sure. All right, so now I want to go ahead and talk about what it's like to use this watch as a runner specifically. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the running settings. So you can see there's trail run, treadmill, but you can see there's a ton of other activities you can track with this watch. So I'm just going to go through a few of these real quick. So we have track me, map, expedition, navigate, just a ton of options. We can go into add, and you can see that there is definitely no shortage of workouts. Some of these actually have like animated workouts like strength training. If we come down here with the ski, they actually have slopes that you can download, and it can walk you through maps of those slopes as well. So some of these, again, like I said, actually have animated workouts that you can do. So if we go down here into like yoga, for instance, there are some animated workouts there. But yeah, there's just a plethora of workouts you can track with this watch, but I'm going to go specifically into some of the running ones. So I've been using primarily treadmill lately. It's cold here in Michigan. I've been kind of lazy and I've been going on the treadmill, but you can see that here I just have distance, timer, pace, and what I will say is that after about 2 or 3 times of calibrating the watch, it's pretty much been dead on every time since then, so that's great. We can go up here into options. We can go into treadmill settings, power mode, training, so a few different options there. Obviously, it's not going to use GPS here, and I'm indoors, so that's obviously not going to work at the moment. But when we go into the running settings, this is where there is just so many different settings that it's really kind of impossible to talk about every single one of them, but I will go through a few of them. First thing is the data screens here. So I have it set up with 5 data screens. With the Fenix 6, you can get up to 6 data screens. If you have this Fenix 6 Plus, or the Fenix 6X, I should say, that one actually has the option of having 8 data screens because it does have a larger screen size, which is crazy. That's a ton of information. I just set it up for 6. And then you can see if you just use this down button, it will scroll through the various data screens. I don't even use these other ones, to be honest with you. I basically just use the 5 here: heart rate, distance, pace, average pace, and timer. Those are the ones I care about. But then we go up here into options, and we can do a bunch of options here. So I actually have it not at the very top of the option. So we have set a target. So if we want to set a target for our workout, we can set distance targets, time and distance, distance and pace. So you can set some targets there. You can go through some segments. So you do have the option of running various segments. So if I go in here, obviously you can see I don't have any segments saved. I already did that one. Pace Pro plans. So I actually don't have a Pace Pro plan set up, but essentially what it's going to do is it's going to help you set up a Pace Pro plan for some specific race that you're going to do. So maybe it's a 5K, a 10K, maybe a half marathon, and actually adjust it for altitude. So if you're running at a place that maybe is higher altitudes, it will adjust your pace based on that altitude, based on the hills, even elevations, changing in the elevation within the race. It will adjust your pace for that as well. We can go here into run settings. You can see that this is where we're going to adjust our data screens. So if you want to change them, you can just by simply hitting this edit button, and you can edit each one of those data screens as well. So I'm not really going to do that because I like it just as it is, but you can see I can adjust the layout, data fields, reorder them, and remove some of them if I want, but I don't want to do that because I like it just the way it is. Go back in here, and we're going to go back into the options again. And so that's our running settings. We can adjust our power mode. So maybe you're going to be running a 100-mile race. You're doing an ultra marathon, so you need like max battery. Now that's going to give you less accurate GPS, but that option is there available. We also have jacket mode. You can see it's not going to obviously use your heart rate. So actually you'd be wearing it on top of the jacket. So heart rate isn't going to be used, but you can see it will still use music because of course this does have the option of music, which is one of my favorite things about the watch. It actually has 32 gigs of internal storage for maps and music, so that's really nice. We can set up some training options. I haven't done that. And then also we can adjust some navigation options. So we can do some point of interest runs. We can do around me, so it'll actually take you to some points of interest around you. You can also set up some courses and do round trip courses. So I can go here. I can set up a distance. So let's say I want to run 10 miles. I'm in a new place and I want to go for a run, and it will automatically calculate. If I hit this button, it'll calculate 3 different distances in the area around me that are close to 10 miles, and it'll give me basically 3 options. And you can kind of adjust how you want it to do that. So if I go in here into, where is it? I'm not in the right spot. We got to go up here into, I think it's run settings. And if you want to adjust that, we can go into the routing. So if I go into routing, this is where I can adjust what kind of things I want it to calculate. So I can calculate minimize distances. I can also avoid certain things. So if I want to avoid certain things on the run, I can avoid those as well with that routing. But yeah, there's just a ton of options here. By no means have I been able to test every single one of those things, and there's a ton of workouts, and again, I've pretty much only used about 4 of them. So I've used hiking, treadmill, running. I've also used trail running. I have done biking. I haven't done any pool swimming, so obviously I'm not training for a triathlon or anything like that, but that is definitely something you can do with this watch. Now, in terms of just other features you have here, of course, you have your heart rate, and we have our step counter. We have floors up and down each day. We have our body battery, kind of letting you know maybe when you need to get a little bit of sleep or at least a little bit of rest. We also have our stress meter here, and that's based off of your heart rate. We have calorie counter. We have our sleep measure, so about 7 hours of sleep last night. Respiration, obviously that's not going to work at the moment because I'm not wearing it. Then here is just kind of like a rundown of my day yesterday, and then we go down here and we can go into our last 7 days as well. So it's going to give you kind of a general idea of how you've been doing over the last 7 days. Down here there are a lot of other options. So newsfeed is just going to take you into kind of like your friends list and people around you, what they've been doing. And then over here, this is where you can go into kind of some detailed information about your workout. So it's going to take you directly into your last few runs, and it can show you just all that. You can see there's all my treadmill runs. Like I mentioned, I've been being a little bit lazy on the treadmill lately. Maybe not lazy, but I've been focusing on the treadmill lately. Get rid of that. And yeah, so we can go into our health stats, so sleep, weight, calories, and we can adjust these as well. It's just going to show you kind of like an overall performance as well. So we can go into our VO2 max, and within that we can see our training effects. So I'll go ahead and show you that on the watch because that's really a nice feature to have. Now, a lot of Garmin watches have this option. All of the Forerunner series watches have this training effect option. Here is a VO2 max, and it does give you kind of an idea of what your race predictors are. They're a little off for me because I haven't been using it outdoors at all lately. It's just been strictly treadmill. We can go into our training stats, and again, that's only going to work if you're actually running outdoors. Like I said, I've been running indoors lately, so it's not going to give that to me. So you can see run outdoors twice to see your status, and then it's going to give you your VO2 max and your training load. So that's actually accurate because it does still calculate your training load, and training effect is still working here. And then we have recovery information. So there we go. That's just a few of the running settings. This watch literally has pretty much everything you could possibly want as a runner, at least that I can think of, but I'm sure there's something it's missing. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to the Garmin Fenix 6 is the battery life on this watch. You can see right now I am currently at 76% battery life, so I've been using it for 3 days now off of battery, and I'll talk more about kind of my usage day to day, but first I want to talk about some of the best case scenarios. So best case scenario here is 14 days on watch mode and 36 hours on GPS mode. So just to clarify that, that's 36 hours on standard GPS mode. If you use some of the battery saving options, you can get definitely better than 36 hours on battery. But if you're using the standard GPS mode, 36 hours, which is definitely not bad, should be able to get you through most ultra marathons. Obviously, depending on how far you're running. If you're doing a 200-mile ultra marathon, obviously, this maybe isn't going to last for that whole race. But that being said, let me just go ahead and talk about my personal usage of the watch. So I've been getting anywhere from about 6 days to about 12 days of battery life. So let me kind of talk about the differences between a 6-day battery span and a 12-day battery span. So like I mentioned, lately I've been using it on a treadmill. Now, when I'm using the treadmill, number one, I'm not using GPS every day. And number two, I'm not listening to music while I'm running because I'm typically watching something on my tablet. So I'm not using Spotify or anything like that. I'm not using Amazon Music. So you can see I do have a bunch of Spotify music here on the watch. So I'm not using any of these playlists. I'm not listening to podcasts. So those are two scenarios that are going to significantly reduce the battery life. So if you're using GPS regularly and music regularly, that's when you're going to get about 6 days of battery life. So that's on running about 45 minutes to an hour every day using the GPS and music. You can get about 6 days of battery life. Now, on the scenario that I've been using it lately, where I'm not using music and I'm not using the GPS regularly and pretty much mostly just using it as a smartwatch, I've been getting 12 days. So not quite the 14 days they mentioned here, but of course, while you're running on a treadmill, it's using a lot of accelerometers and different measurements in order to try to get accurate readings on the treadmill. So it is going to burn a little bit faster through the battery than just using it as a watch, as a smartwatch on day to day. So anywhere from about 6 days to 12 days, but I would say most typical runners, I would say you're probably going to get somewhere around 6 to 8 days of battery life. So still very, very good, and certainly it'll get you through most weeks on a charge. So that is really fantastic. So overall, the Fenix 6 is a fantastic watch. Is it a watch for everyone? I would certainly say not. Obviously, number one, it's quite expensive. But number two, there's a lot of features that this watch has that specifically for me as a casual runner to maybe a slightly serious runner, I would say this definitely has a little bit more than I even need as a runner. So, you know, you have to kind of weigh out what you need from a watch. I would say for a lot of runners specifically, the Forerunners watches are my personal preference. I don't think the Fenix 6 is one that I necessarily need because of all the extra features this watch has that I simply am not using because I'm not skiing, I'm not golfing, I'm not doing the other things that this watch does offer. But it does offer better battery life than other watches. It does also offer a ton of other features that you don't get on some of the other Forerunner watches as well. So anyways, kind of something you have to weigh out when you're looking between whether to pick up a Fenix 6 watch or maybe something from another company as well. So let me know what you guys think. Again, shout out to the folks over at playbetter.com for sponsoring this video. Thanks for watching. I hope this video has been helpful for you, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.